Any disparities? If not, the minutes will stand as posted. Item 3, discussion and possible action items. The first item is agency commendation for life-saving actions by Deputy Anthony Rausch. And for that, we have Sheriff Schulteis. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much. This is one of those times where I get to highlight some of the actions of some of our patrol deputies. This is going to be talking about an incident just a couple of Thursdays ago, Thursday, June 26th, rather. It's kind of going to be a little bit backwards on how I usually do it, because I do have some audio visual things I like to present to the committee. The first thing I'd like to do is just read the commendation. And then I have a couple of pictures of the incident after the fact. And then I have about 8 minutes of body cam footage that I'd like to show you. When I show you the body cam footage, there's the way our body cams are set up, there's a delay. When the deputies start to, when they depress and activate their body cam, it actually backtracks 30 seconds. So you're going to miss out about 30 seconds of audio, but then it kicks in. But that's the reason it's built into the system that it backtracks when they start to record. So the deputy that we're referring to is Deputy Anthony Rausch. He started with our agency in the jail actually in May of 2021. He attended recruit school shortly after that fact, and once we got his transcripts back, we were told that he actually ranked #1 in his graduating class. The Academy actually awarded him an Academic Excellence Award, and he spent a short time in the jail, and then in April 7th of 2022, he then transferred into the patrol operations, where he's been there ever since. So the commendation, Anthony, if I could have you come up for me, please. So this is a commendation for Deputy Anthony Rausch. Whereas on June 26th, 2025, Deputy Rausch displayed outstanding courage, decisiveness, and professionalism in response to a life-threatening emergency involving a reckless driver. And whereas at approximately 1:51 p.m., multiple 911 calls were received regarding a vehicle traveling erratically northbound on Interstate 41 near Sherman Road, reported to be swerving dangerously, entering ditches, forcing other motorists off the roadway. Deputy Rausch responded to intercept the vehicle, which had exited on State Highway 144. As he approached Cedar Hills Drive, he was flagged down by a citizen and informed the suspect vehicle had crashed 10 to 15 yards into the woods on the west side of 144. And you'll see in the video, you actually couldn't see the vehicle from the roadway. Whereas upon locating the crashed vehicle, Deputy Rausch observed heavy damage, full airbag deployment, and smoke emanating from the engine compartment. Inside, he found a lone occupant, slumped over and unresponsive. Without hesitation, recognizing the immediate threat of fire, Deputy Rausch broke the driver's side window, entered the vehicle, and extricated the driver, who weighed approximately 185 pounds, and he did this by himself. Whereas after removing the unresponsive driver, Deputy Rausch initiated a medical assessment and identified a faint pulse. Flames were then observed coming from under the vehicle. Deputy Rausch then dragged the subject an additional 10 yards away from the burning wreck. A bystander arrived to assist, followed by additional deputies. Narcan was administered, and the subject eventually regained consciousness. Whereas the vehicle soon was fully engulfed and the interior destroyed before the fire was extinguished. The driver later admitted to using fentanyl en route to court and subsequently was arrested for OWI third offense. Whereas Deputy Rausch's actions reflected the highest standards of bravery, selflessness, and duty. His decisive and life-saving efforts directly resulted in the preservation of life under extreme and dangerous circumstances. Furthermore, his conduct serves as a powerful example of the dedication and courage law enforcement officers exhibit in the face of unpredictable and hazardous situations. Now, therefore, be resolved that Washington County is a safer place due to the dedication, quick reaction, and commitment of Deputy Anthony Rausch. He is hereby commended for his dedication and preservation as a deputy sheriff. So, Anthony, thank you very much. So now I'd like to actually show you what I'm referring to. So these are the scenes of the after the extrication. These are the scenes of the interior of the vehicle after the fire was put out. You can see the one on the left is the front compartment, and the one on the right is the rear compartment. And the body cam that I'm going to show you, we had to edit it quite a bit because it shows some pretty graphic stuff in the driver. But you'll get the sense of exactly what I'm referring to. So you can see here, you can't see the vehicle from the roadway.
Somewhere in here.
What's this?
There he is.
474 County. Vehicle smoking. I located it. Will be north of Cedar Hills Drive. Attempting to enter the brush where it's located. Hey, firm. Yeah. I found a way back there. Copy 28. Adam Henry Union 4513 and Adam Henry Union 4513. Sir! Sir! Sir, can you hear me? Sir! Yeah, sir. Waving them in. Sir! Sir, can you hear me? 474 County driver's not responding. I'll be breaking the window. Sir! Sir, can you hear me? Sir! Sir, can you hear me? Sir! 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 474 County, if you can have fire advisor, can't get the door open. Driver's not responsive at this time, bleeding from the nose. Sir, can you hear me? Sir! 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 Additional squad bringing AED. Sir. Sir. Can you hear me? Sir, can you hear me? Sir. Sir, can you hear me? Sir. 474 County. Patient out of the vehicle, has a pulse, non-responsive. Facial injuries, eyes rolled back. I'm gonna start CPR. Oh. 474 County, just I'm moving them. Vehicle set on fire. Hey, back here. Dad, you can come help me. Yeah, I need somebody to grab his legs. We got him in the way. The car started on fire. Right here. I need you to grab his feet so we can carry him. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We're in here. Grab an AED. Oh, that number. Got it? Well, okay. 3, I got 2, 1.
Right.
Want to take over? Can you grab us and take over? Back there underneath the front end. All right, get that. We gotta lift up. Lift underneath the shoulders. Over. Not gonna see it. I just got him. Go check if you can. Yep. Can you check that? I have. Paper, let's go back. Make some notes. I didn't see anyone else in the front seat. Back seat's empty. Front seat's empty.
So Deputy Roush has about 3 years on patrol, and he acted like a veteran deputy. If you noticed, he was very, very calm. He went up, assessed the medical. I mean, got into the vehicle, assessed him, brought him out. The angle of the camera, you saw the fire under the vehicle. He probably couldn't see that at that point. It's just his eyes are higher than the camera. But immediately after seeing the fire, he got the individual out further, that it was doing a medical assessment of the individuals, directing incoming squads of what he needed. Went back and made sure that the vehicle was not occupied by somebody else that he didn't initially see. You probably heard some colorful language. That's how real life law enforcement works. I mean, this is, but the way he acted was how a veteran deputy would act, and it makes me very proud that we have staff that are protecting our community the way it is. So I appreciate the fact that you gave me the opportunity to highlight that, and anytime I'm able to do that, I plan on bringing that forth to this committee.
Thank you for raising the situation and providing a commendation for Deputy Roush. Are there any comments from the committee?
I think this is great stuff. I like to see this.
I think absolutely. And to mirror what Sheriff Schulteis said, you're standing there probably a little bit embarrassed. You don't want to be the center of attention and stuff. And we get that. but you acted in a way that was professional from beginning to end. You acted with integrity, with respect for life, with respect for the neighboring situation. It is obvious that you took command of that situation from beginning to end in a professional way, in a way that you had less colorful language, by the way, than I would have had in that situation. And so to maintain composure in all that, I'm just incredibly impressed with your actions, and thank you. Thank you for being part of Washington County law enforcement. We appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Now on to less exciting and interesting things. Item 3B, Washington County Sheriff's Office, the 2024 annual report. And just to comment up before we get into it, a 41-page report that if hopefully everyone read it from beginning to end, this is another example of the integrity, the diligence, the professionalism that we have in our sheriff's department. From beginning to end, it's well written. It provides the information we need. It's just a well done report. So thank you to Captains Lehman, Stoicer, and Teusch for their work, and thank you, Sheriff, for your leadership in that regard as well.
Yeah, so we've always done annual reports. We have them going back for as long as I can remember. And I know there was a point in time where the individual committees was no longer required annual reports, but I chose to continue to do it just because I like to have that historical record of what our agency does, our staffing levels. So I plan on giving you kind of a very, very 30,000 foot overview of it. I'll go over a little bit of financials, some of the operation stuff, and then I'll either bring up Captain Stoicer or Captain Lehman to address their divisions. So as you know, we have one of the largest budgets in the county. We probably have the largest county levy portion of the budget, but for 2024 it was $26.4 million, our total budget. 21.5 million was the county levy. We were 2.6% over our budget, which, I mean, that number sounds small, 2.6%, but it's real money. It is. It was almost $700,000, $691,000. And I just wanted to address why those that expenditures were more than that was. There was a couple of things. The overtime in the jail was just over the charts. Our staffing levels and maintaining minimum staffing, that was very problematic. One of the other things is, and it's a factor of the budget process, there's something called contra wages. That is a vacancy factor that is built in, that they figure there's so many vacancies, so they reduce the budget. And it's very effective in the jail and the communications area. We typically have vacancies in there, that contra wage is very appropriate. What we've been finding is the contra wage that we assess to the operations division is almost non-existent. We still have that contra wage factor in there, but we're very, very good at getting vacancies filled very, very quickly and recognizing upcoming retirements and actually getting permission from the budget team to hire ahead of time. So that contra wage, I believe it's $500,000, and I'm not sure if that's just in the patrol division or if that's agency wide, but that number kind of hurts us a little bit when the final numbers are in. So I just wanted to go over quickly the overall staffing of the patrol division or the operation division, just so you're aware of the staffing. We have 3 lieutenants that are patrol lieutenants, first, second, and third shift. We have 1 detective lieutenant that oversees both major crimes and the drug unit. There are 9 sergeants. There are 6 first-line supervisors for patrol, 2 assigned to each patrol shift. 1 is responsible for the drug unit. 1 oversees major crimes, and the final is the sergeant that's assigned to courthouse security. Operations has 1 full-time mechanic, and our deputy and staffing include our patrol consists of 59 patrol deputies. And that includes the 3 contract deputies that are with the Village of Richfield, and the 1 that is kind of a shared position between shared revenue and the town of West Bend. Major crimes, we consist of 6 detectives and 2 investigators. Our multi-jurisdictional drug unit has 2 detectives and 2 investigators from the sheriff's office. And then there are 4 other investigators from West Bend, Hartford, and Germantown. Sometimes that can be a little fluid, those numbers. Court services, we have 3 full-time deputies, as well as numerous part-time deputies that help out both at screening station and for prisoner moving. Calls for service, you probably saw there are about 43,000 calls for service. That's about what we had the previous year. Accidents, we had 6 fatalities last year, which was 5 less than in 2023, so that was good. OWI enforcement, we had about 186 OWI arrests, and that's pretty consistent from year to year. We also know, I'm not sure if that was an annual report, but we have 3 deputies that are trained in commercial motor vehicle enforcement. And what I thought was kind of interesting there, in 2024, they conducted 78 vehicle stops, vehicle inspections. But during that time, they found 318 violations in those 78 stops. So that seemed pretty significant to me. We have the recreational patrols, both on water and on snow. We had about 80 hours on the lakes, and snow was very, boat patrol, or the snowmobile patrol is very weather dependent, obviously. The SWAT team is also multi-jurisdictional. It consists of 23 operators, 15 from the sheriff's office, and then we have 5 from Germantown, 3 from Hartford, and 1 from Jackson. One of the new things that we have is the field force team. If you remember, I came in front of this body for strategic funds for some gear. We're implementing it. It's in early stages, but we've identified that we have 26 individuals on that team. 14 from the sheriff's office, 5 from West Bend PD, 4 from Germantown, and 1 from Slinger. And I think, we also have the dive team that consists of 9 sheriff's office employees, 7 deputies, 2 correctional officers, and about 24 firefighters from various departments within the county. Our K9 program is extremely important and effective. If you remember, we have a patrol K9, that's K9 Razor, and then we have a dog Riker is assigned to the jail. School visits for me remains one of my top priorities. As you know, we don't have SROs assigned to schools. We have one high school in our jurisdiction, but we don't have an SRO assigned to it. But we have deputies that routinely check in and make sure that the deputies know the school knows them. And in 2024, we had about 1,000, a little over 1,000 school checks. So as the chairman said, a lot of the deep down statistics are in the annual report. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. But I think at this point, I'll bring up either Captain Lehman want to step forward, and he can go over the jail.
Thank you. Welcome, Captain Lehman. Thank you
Hello.
for your work.
Thank you for having me. So, like the sheriff said, we're just giving highlights and overview of that annual report. If you have any questions on it, let me know. I'll start off with the staffing over in the corrections division. Right now, we currently have 1 captain, 1 lieutenant, 7 sergeants, 1 juvenile manager, and 65 officers. That's when we are at full staff. That is the staff, kind of our core staff. We also have support staff, which include mental health technician. If you remember, we partner with Human Services for a full-time mental health technician. Holly has been tremendous in the jail on addressing some of our major crises that we have in the jail. We also have a jail chaplain who works part-time overseeing all of the religious programming in the jail. I'll touch base on that a little bit farther down my list here. And then, of course, we have contracted services. We have our medical services, which is provided by Advanced Correctional Healthcare. And then we have our food service, which is provided by Summit. We currently have 4 vacancies. So right now, I know we're talking about the 2024 annual report, but I will let you know we have 4 vacancies right now. And we have 1 officer who is in our field training program. So the jail itself consists of really two distinct divisions. It's the adult jail and the juvenile secure detention. We're kind of unique in the state of Wisconsin as that juvenile detention facility is co-located, which means it's attached to our adult facility. There's certain hallways and areas where the adult facility and the juvenile facility will share some common areas, the booking room, the sally port, things like that. So our adult jail currently has 321 beds, houses individuals 17 years and older. Our juvenile detention facility has 26 beds and houses youth from 10 years old to 17 years old. Our key issues in the jail continue to be opioid addiction and mental health. Those have been our two major issues, and they continue to be. I think mental health is probably on a faster track right now, is becoming our number one issue. Never really seems to it never seems to dip. It just seems to keep on going up. Our high needs inmates, high risk inmates that we're dealing with. So looking at trends, whenever you look at trends in a jail, you're usually focusing on two major areas, the total number of bookings and then our average daily population, or ADP. Those are usually the two that people look to. So I will talk about both of those for 2024. For our adult, or for our total bookings for 2024, we booked in 3,868 individuals. That breaks down into 3,607 adults and 261 juveniles. A little bit down from 2023 in overall bookings, but it was only about a 1%, less than a 1% decrease. So pretty stable as far as number of actual bookings. Our average daily population is kind of where we're seeing a little bit of a difference, a little bit more of an impact on our daily operations. So in 2023, our average daily population for adults was 170. In 2024, that number has climbed to 200. So basically how we come up with our ADP, or our average daily population, is every morning at 5 a.m. We log our numbers as far as all of the inmates that are in our custody. So, and then we average that out over the year. So, it was a pretty substantial hike in average population. Juvenile average daily population dropped from 11 to 8, which is pretty typical. That number fluctuates from year to year. If you look at the overall ADP, adult and juvenile combined, we had about 11.3% increase between 23 and 24. So if our booking numbers are staying the same and our ADP is rising, that generally means that people are staying longer in our custody. So I had mentioned our religious programming that is overseen by our jail chaplain, James Hill. He has been with us since the year 2000, and he kind of oversees all of the programming. He's got to be a semi-expert at every religion. So in 2024, we had over 27 different religions being practiced within the jail, and we are obligated to meet certain needs of those religious activities. So it's pretty impactful on what we all have to put into that to make sure that everybody is able to practice whatever religion they're practicing. We also supplement Reverend Hill with volunteer-based programming, religious programming. So we have members of the community who donate their time and do really good work behind our walls for people who really need it. A little bit deeper into the contracted services, I had mentioned the medical services provided by Advanced Correctional Healthcare. 2024, we were offering 128 hours of nursing a week. I believe you guys probably remember all the discussion last year on the skyrocketing costs of medical care. We are feeling it for sure. You're going to see that in the budget here moving forward. But we did take when we were tasked with negotiating our contract with Advanced Correctional Healthcare, knowing that all of our rates were going up, we decided to take that time to work in additional hours so that we could stay ahead of the game and continue to provide adequate medical service. So that number of 128 hours per week, we did manage to raise that to 208 hours a week. So we've got very, very good coverage. We are paying more, but we would have been paying more either way. So that was a real benefit to us. Food service provider. In 2024, we served 202,575 adult meals and 9,929 juvenile meals. So it's 7 days a week, 3 meals a day. My food service is always at work. So we have our electronic monitoring program. I'll touch briefly on that. It's another way that we can hold people accountable for their actions, but not have them within the confines of the jail. So this is for individuals who are sentenced to work release privileges. If they meet certain criteria, we'll place them in our electronic monitoring program. We utilize GPS bracelets and Scram alcohol monitors to monitor their daily movements, but they're basically serving their sentence at home, and then we're monitoring from jail. Our equipment provider for that is Justice Point. We've been partnering with them since 2020. Our average daily participation in the program for 2024 is 10 inmates. That's down from 14 in 2023. The reason for the decline is just we struggle to find eligible individuals for that program. You really need to show that you're low risk and you're making good decisions. And in my line of work, you don't get either of those very often. So. And then I will finish up with just touching base on the Juvenile Detention Center. We are one of only 12 county level juvenile detention centers in the state of Wisconsin. So obviously with there only being 12 of us out there, we all become kind of a regional facility housing not only our own juveniles from Washington County, but also housing for other counties across the state. And when I say across the state, it truly is across the state. In 2024, we housed for 31 different counties. And it was clear from border to border in every direction. We've housed juveniles. So our boarding rate, we do charge a rate of $225 a day. So that does cover, a portion of the costs, operating costs. It does not cover everything, but it does help to offset some of that. Anytime you're operating a juvenile detention center, you also have to provide education. So we do have the West Bend School District has a school within our jail walls. It's called the Washington Street School. They provide us with 2 full-time teachers and 2 teacher aides. And we provide, it's pretty much year round. August is really the only summer break that they receive. So it's kind of a shortened summer break. We have an extended school year, but all of the juveniles that are in our custody are required to go to school. And then again, the other counties that are operating county level juvenile facilities, that would be Brown County, Dane County, Fond du Lac, La Crosse, Marathon, Milwaukee, and then there's a Northwest Regional Center, Portage County, Racine County, Rock County, and Sheboygan County. Waukesha County they're still technically open. They haven't housed juveniles there in a few years, but they're maintaining their status. So in case there's a need, they can reopen. So that is my highlights from 2024. If anybody has any questions on any of the other statistics that were within the annual report or anything else.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And we welcome Captain Robert Stacer. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you for your work.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So my primary areas of concern are the administrative portion of the sheriff's office, open records, civil process, things like that. Our radio, new countywide radio system and the communication center. By far, most of my time in 2024 was consumed with the communication center. And that was due to our consolidation, our continued limited staffing, and the PSAP grants that we had applied for. So I think we've got pretty good numbers on everything with respect to our administration portion of our operation. Very quickly, the countywide radio system in 2024. This has been a long ongoing project. And it continued to chug along in 24 with the highlights being the installation of our microwave ring, the new HVAC units in all of our tower sites, and UPSs, uninterruptible power supplies, and our 700 equipment being installed at our tower site. So that project continues to chug along. We hope to have coverage testing done by either coverage testing to start by either late August, early September of this year. We plan to be off our rented towers in October, and then comes the work of installation of radios for our DPW units across the county, and then of course decommissioning of the old towers. So the project's going to continue to go on in 2026 yet, but we're hoping that the lion's share of the work is done this year. So I'd really like to focus on communications because that's again where lion's share of my work is taking place. Our current authorized staffing is 3 supervisors and 23.5 dispatchers. The staffing issue continues to be a concern. So currently we're 7 dispatchers short and 2 supervisors. And that pretty much held short to fiscal year 2024 as well. And that's due to a variety of reasons: retirements, transfers, resignations, FMLA leaves, extended FMLA leaves. And then we continue to have high training washout rates. So 4 out of 10 people that get hired by us and enter the training program don't finish. And that's pretty consistent industry wide from what we're talking, but it's just it's a unique skill set to have. And so not everybody has it. It's difficult. There's a lot of multitasking involved. And so that continues to be an issue. In our numbers that we presented to you, the calling, most of our increases were due. So 2024 was the year that we primarily had Hartford. So Hartford was fully consolidated in 2024. In the Germantown work continued towards that. So with respect to the consolidation of Hartford, we saw about a 7.2% increase in calls coming into the dispatch center. We can attribute that to the Hartford consolidation. That consisted of some, almost 24,000 911 calls and, 71,500 administrative calls. Those administrative calls can come from officers looking for information. They can come from people who calling to report things that they're not calling on 911. They can consist of people calling in burn logs and different things like that. And they also consist of the telephonic OWI search warrants. So every police agency in Washington County, to be able to get a telephonic OWI search warrant for somebody that they're out with, it starts with a call to our dispatch center. They then do a 3-way call with the on-duty judge. The call is recorded, and that the recording of that call ultimately goes back to the clerk of court. So dispatch is heavily involved in that process, and those can be time-consuming processes just because of the nature of those calls. I would expect moving forward, once we are fully consolidated with Germantown now, and I would expect for fiscal year 25 that you're going to see at least another 7% or more increase again in calls, because now we have Germantown as well. Germantown and Hartford are pretty similar as far as call volume. I wish I could give you numbers as to like how many calls are we dispatching to Hartford. Unfortunately, because of the integration of our records management systems, those numbers were dirty, and I couldn't come up with anything that was useful. I just couldn't draw any conclusions from it. I think next year now, because we're fully integrated and we're on the same system, the data will be much better for next year. But what I can say, and these are good numbers, the 2024 fire calls. So typically, obviously, we did all the fire departments with the exception of West Bend, Hartford, and Germantown. We added Hartford to that mix last year. And so our dispatch center handled an additional 33.4% call volume in fire calls. So those are your medical calls, the people having heart attacks, fires, things like that. So there's extra time spent on the phone with those calls, the paging of the fire department. So a big workload with respect to fire calls. And I suspect that once I am able to get decent data from the police side, again, big workload, that big increase in workload on the police side as well. And I'm hoping to have those better numbers next year. So needless to say, we pretty much handled that increased workload with a staffing that was very consistent with what we had when we only had the county on. Concessions have been made with the other police agencies to be able to accommodate the increased workload with the decreased staffing. I don't know that it's a perfect scenario right now. We are working towards something that's more perfect, but we're making it work. And the agencies or all the communities have been very gracious in this process, and we hope in 26 we can get there. But there are shortcomings. With respect to the PSAP grant that we did in 24, if you remember, that was the one that kind of facilitated that Hartford project. It brought us on the extra consoles that we needed, the new bullpen furniture, and all things Hartford needed. That grant paid for that ProPhoenix platform, that software management, and that was a $473,000 90-10 split that we incorporated. So that was had a lot of time and effort devoted towards that, implementing that grant. We currently have a grant going as well. We call it the fiscal year 25 PSAP grant. That grant is all things Germantown, whatever it took to get the Germantown consolidation on board. That was a $740,000 90-10 split grant. And although it didn't happen in 24 a little bit, because we kicked it off in December 1st. A lion's share happened this year, but we are probably 85% complete with the work on that particular grant. There's just pretty much just one major component that we need to work on yet, and we still have analog phone lines in the dispatch center. We're finding out that analog is a thing of the past, that the AT&T doesn't even have technicians to work on it. And when we have faults with it, it's very hard to even get a technician from AT&T to come in and analyze it and fix it. So part of this project takes those phone lines and turns them into a VoIP, a redundant VoIP. There's a redundancy involved in it. And so we're hoping that we can alleviate a lot of the outages and things that occur on that. And those analog lines kind of support our administrative phone lines. So we're hoping that that'll kind of streamline that process. Yeah, that's about it. Any questions on the communications center?
Any questions from the committee? Thank you for your thorough report. Appreciate it. Moving on to the next item 3C on the agenda, co-responder unit update. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. So I am Deputy Blake DeMonk with the Sheriff's Office, and I'm partnered here with Dave Arndt and Abigail Rebecki from Human Services. And we're just here to give a presentation on our co-responder unit that's through the Sheriff's Office. I just have to set up the computer and I'll have it on the screens for you in just a second here. Oh, the backside. Thank you. There you go. All right. So once again, all three of us are with the co-responder unit with the Sheriff's Office, and our goal today is just to explain who's all on our unit, what our unit all accomplishes throughout the county, and just provide some real life examples for you of things that we have responded to and assisted with. So starting with the demographics of the county, approximate population of 137,000 individuals. Population of the Sheriff's Office jurisdiction alone is 50,100. Sheriff's Office made up of 93 sworn deputies, including 6 full-time departments within 6 municipalities that our unit assists. One thing to note with the municipalities within the county is that we work with every single one of them. They work with us. They can send us referrals. So our work in municipalities, the cities, the villages, and the towns with police departments, we work exclusively with them through a referral system. So those agencies, if they have an individual that they think would be appropriate for our unit to follow up with, they can complete a referral form and get that to one of the teams. And then we are able to work with that individual going forward. And that's pretty much how we get involved with our municipalities, is just through a referral system. So for an introduction to the teams, I'll kind of cover the law enforcement side, and I'll let my partners here kind of cover the human services side of things. So we have 4 total teams, and it is made up of a partnership between 1 deputy and 1 mental health clinician with a master's degree. So the deputies, my, I guess, uniform of the day, so to speak, is kind of plain clothes. This is what we would normally wear out. And the main reason why we are in plain clothes is because a lot of the individuals that we work with, the uniform, just with all the gear and everything, it tends to be a little bit overwhelming and intimidating. And so we've seen that the plain clothes is a little bit more of a better approach to it, and they're more willing to kind of speak with law enforcement and build a relationship with someone who looks a little less intimidating and full of gear. And we've seen some success with that. But I'll turn it over to you guys for the.
So of the clinicians, as Blake said, we all have master's degrees in the field, so to speak. And what's interesting about this unit is we are truly embedded with the sheriff's office. If you think about Vietnam era, like reporters that would go into the field and sleep and eat with the troops, that's kind of what we do here. So Blake and I are partners. We share off groups, off time. We work the exact same hours. And again, we are truly embedded. Other co-responder units kind of will just respond by phone or radio. They're not actually consistently with a law enforcement. So that's what makes us unique. But again, the 4 clinicians, again, we all have master's degrees in the field. Abby is a social worker. I've been trained as a counselor, and the other 2 clinicians are also in training to get their license for counseling.
Yeah, and so just a little bit of overview of what our coverage looks like for the county. So the 4 teams were on 2 separate rotations so that we can obtain a full 7 days of coverage, and the hours of coverage every single day are from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. So 2 teams work kind of the day shift hours from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then the other 2 teams work a second shift, which is from 12 p.m. till 10 p.m. So we have that coverage from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And that, obviously that leaves the gap for kind of the third shift. But with our unit primarily doing the bulk of our work and follow-ups with individuals, we'd like to not wake people up in the middle of the night to follow up with them. So we prefer to do that obviously either in the morning or afternoons, which is why we don't have that third shift coverage. So a little bit of how our team with Washington County may compare to some of the other corresponder models that you see at a couple other agencies. So there's a variety that we've seen, and we are able to learn a lot at our annual corresponder conference about how other teams do things and learn how their models are compared to ours. We've seen models where there are mental health professionals sitting in the dispatch center, and when a mental health call comes in, that mental health person will take over the phone communication with them. We've seen mental health professionals riding along with fire and rescue to respond to calls that would be appropriate for them to go to. Agencies where a clinician, it has a office in law enforcement or at the county or at a PD, but they are not partnered with law enforcement. They just have an office there. Mobile crisis units, and then a specific out-of-state agency mentioned that they actually use iPads, and they have their officers who have basically that second iPad where they're on a scene and think like, hey, are you willing to speak with somebody? And they just talk through an iPad. A whole lot of different versions. And of course, we can't speak for how that agency, what agency training specific those other people go through. But for us, our clinicians are partnered directly with the deputy to form the teams. So there's 8 of us total, and we respond together to all calls. The only exception to that is, let's say one of us are sick or one of us takes vacation, has an off day. That doesn't stop us from accomplishing our goal for the day. Both of us individually are still able to do follow-up and are still able to respond out to calls effectively to accomplish the same goal. The deputy portion of responding out to a calls is kind of handle the law enforcement paperwork. So if we have to complete an emergency detention on an individual, that would be me completing that paperwork. Speaking with other law enforcement and going through specific training like crisis intervention training and crisis negotiation trainings, and basically providing the law enforcement aspect of things. And I'll kind of.
So yeah, each the law enforcement and the clinicians. So I have access to the law enforcement systems, read only, okay? I can't file an incident report, but I can pretty much access the reports and read them. The dispatch center, I can kind of, add a call or whatever, a note to it. Conversely, law enforcement has access to our clinical electronic medical records, read only, okay? They cannot make any entries or make any notes, but they do have full access, and basically, they can view whatever medical records have in their system. So again, that's between Human Services and the Sheriff's Office. That's a great collaboration. And again, I'm not sure that other co-responder teams have that. They might, but that's how we work, and it works very well.
Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, our mission is centered around building relationships with individuals who are willing to work with us. And usually through that built rapport, we can try and get them into the help that they want for themselves while also limiting law enforcement contacts, specifically negative law enforcement contacts. So kind of a few benefits. We've covered some of these already. But a lot of the times we have, we use the term like under the radar, and essentially what that is individuals who maybe have known addiction or mental health diagnoses and constant law enforcement contacts. And if we can get involved in working with those individuals, it usually helps limit those contacts and keeps them under the radar. That's essentially where that term comes from. And Dave kind of talked about how we have access to each other's systems to be able to get information maybe prior to responding down there. It helps with rapport building. We found that if Dave is maybe familiar from the last time law enforcement was contacted, or I'm familiar of maybe when they last saw, had an appointment with Human Services, that helps to build rapport, because then I can show that I'm familiar with what you've been going through in your situation a little bit more. And we've seen that in real time with the individuals that we work with. And kind of another thing, another piece of the puzzle for us is filling a gap of care on scene for victims of crimes. So this kind of covers not necessarily people with a mental health diagnosis or somebody with an addiction, but trauma, traumatic calls, violent calls. Those people I'd argue they are in crisis because they were exposed to a traumatic event, a victim of a traumatic event. And we're able to also have a connection with those individuals well. And we have a specific case with that later that we'll discuss as well.
So the Sheriff's Office deputies are pretty comfortable with our unit and what we can do, and they will request us quite often. The other jurisdictions within Washington County, they're learning. But again, most of them, if not all of them, have given us an open invite to come into their city or their town to work with people.
So I kind of got into this a little bit early, but another thing that kind of separates us a little bit from other corresponder models we found is that we kind of go beyond, I guess, the original scope of the corresponder model by assisting at the traumatic incidents, supporting victims of violent crime, giving the follow-up to clients, participating in death notifications, and assistance with negotiations when appropriate. And in the next few slides here, those are kind of gonna be those case examples of real cases that we have gone maybe a little bit beyond the scope to offer assistance and provide resources.
So a big difference between us and just the standard crisis center or other CRU teams is that we do a great amount of follow-up with people. One person, we may have multiple contacts. I just got a message this morning from a client from about a year ago. She kept my card, kept my number, and she's having some difficulties again, so she's calling me again. And again, she's not calling 911, and that's the goal. We don't want the community consumers to just dial 911, which initiates a law enforcement response. If they have our information, they again, they can either leave a message or and we can respond directly. But again, we want to decrease the calls for emergency services to them.
All right, so we have been requested for scenes or cases involving completed suicides. And how do we usually get notified of this? Either officers or deputies contact us saying like, hey, we think your presence down here would be needed for the family to assist the family. And sometimes we've been requested directly from the medical examiner's office requesting us to come down and speak with the family and offer some resources for them. The deputy kind of provides like the investigative end of things of this is what to expect. You know, we're gonna have to ask some questions. I know you're going through a lot, but just want to put this on the radar that you know that we're gonna have to bring this up and talk about this again, just to get some information. While you know the mental health clinicians are able to sit there and provide support to the families and educate on the process of grief. Side effects that they're expected to have, that loss of appetite, loss of sleep, and normalize those symptoms for that specific scene. And then off scene, like Dave mentioned, lots and lots of follow-up with these families. We're there with them as much as they allow us to, as much as they want us to, you know, all the way up to, you know, the potential celebration of life or a funeral, which can obviously bring up all those emotions again, support through that type of thing, and make sure that they have access to the resources or at least the knowledge of resources out there.
And again, it's a voluntary system. If people don't want to talk to us, we're not going to force them to. Okay, we'll give them our card, our information. If you need this, call 988, call 211, something if you're feeling bad. You know, sometimes people just don't want to talk to us.
Yep, and we don't force that. This isn't a program that's forced on people. It is, you know, if you are looking for assistance with whatever it is you may be going through, we're here to help guide you to the resources that we have available. So with this first case, this was a death notification. This involved our team involving Deputy Pierce and clinician Marin. And essentially how it came across was out-of-state PD had sent a teletype or basically notified our agency to give death notification to a resident of Washington County of a relative from out of state. And ultimately the death was ruled a homicide and was particularly gruesome. So what our team did is they used collateral information from both human services and from prior law enforcement contacts. And had seen that the person that they were going to provide the death notification to had past mental health concerns. So they were able to use that collaborative information to appropriately go and provide that notification in as gentle of a way as possible, educated with, you know, the details that they could share at that time that were known, while also providing that short-term support in the moment. And then through follow-up contacts, they were able to follow up with this individual to ensure that, you know, she was safely coping with that news and ultimately assisted her in that grief process and moving forward to make sure that that she was okay. And with this second case, this was also Deputy Pearson, clinician Marin. This was a referral received from the Lieutenant of Detectives, requested CRU at the scene. In this case, an elderly couple was scammed and 4 individuals had attempted a break-in in the morning hours and were fought off by the homeowner, and they left the scene at that time. But later, late at night, they returned to the same house and broke in and held the couple at gunpoint. And so there were 2 break-ins within a day for these homeowners. And ultimately, the CRU team was able to respond down there and provide as much support as we possibly could in that moment. 1 was enough, obviously, right? But 2 within 24 hours, probably the same individuals, right? They needed support and we were able to provide that to them. And lots of follow-up with that family, lots of resources for therapy and how it can help them get through the process and get them through what they were victims of. And a unique thing is that the CRU was present during their victim impact statement to offer support, which we think is a very unique way of getting involved and assisting the residents of Washington County. And Abby, if you want to talk about this one.
I'll scoot over here so you guys can hear me. So this was one of our cases with an individual, I'll call him John Doe. He had pretty severe mental illness. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and a lot of his symptoms resulted in police and law enforcement contact and being placed on Chapter 51 emergency detentions due to his mental illness. He had a lot of paranoia, hallucinations, and delusions. And a lot of those symptoms revolved around law enforcement. He felt like law enforcement was targeting him. So when we first met with him, we kind of had an uphill battle with trying to kind of discuss what our program could do. He had had a lot of involvement in various county programs. And so really building that relationship with him so that he could feel comfortable with us first, and then we could talk to him about programs that were available and really kind of meet him where he was at. Our first, I think earlier, they were discussing how this is a voluntary program. Our first attempt at contact with him, we got to his house and we introduced ourselves and he's like, "You need to leave now." And we're like, "Okay, we'll talk to you later." And so that actually built trust with him because he realized like, okay, we're not forcing this on him. We're not there to arrest him. We're not there to force mental health treatment on him. Prior to our involvement with him, there had been 22 calls with the sheriff's office, including at least 1 SWAT call. He would regularly arm himself as part of his paranoia. He would feel like he was protecting himself, but ultimately that put others in danger. And so there's that increased level of danger with him. And we had 27 follow-ups with him between October of 2023, March 2024. During that time, we built that trust with him. We were ultimately able to connect him with psychiatry through the county, therapy, and case management services. We also provided a lot of support to his family during that time. He was living at home, and living with somebody with that level of mental illness takes a toll on the family also. So we were really able to support them through that process. And since that time, there have been no additional law enforcement contacts with that individual.
And kind of our last example here is with assisting with crisis negotiations. A great example of this is with the Ozaki County SWAT call that occurred, I believe it was a month or 2 months ago now. Essentially, it was a individual who was in his residence and was shooting rounds out of his house in a subdivision, just in a general direction, not specifically at anybody, and was refusing to come out. And obviously, due to the danger to the public at that time, SWAT was paged, and ultimately it lasted quite some time. I think it ended up being a 30-some hour negotiation with this individual, but due to it being so extended, Ozaki County had requested other resources and requested the Washington County negotiator team to come out. And Dave and I just so happened to be working that day and were requested to go out and assist in any way that we can. So we went out there and we ultimately relieved Ozaki County after they had spent all night, like a 12-hour post, trying to negotiate with this individual, and they briefed us and we kind of took over from there. And essentially the biggest, I think, plus about that is the training that we had gone to, that our agency has us go through, that helped tremendously, especially going through negotiator school. It helps with negotiating with individuals in crisis. And a unique perspective to it is usually a negotiation team is made up of law enforcement deputies or dispatchers. But having mental health professionals there, we found a huge advantage to that. How Dave was able to help on scene, a lot of it was intel gathering. So he was able to reach out to multiple different counties to see if they have had contact with this individual, to see if there's any possible connections that we can possibly use to build a rapport with this individual, any pertinent information that would help us better understand what mental state this individual might be in. And as well as a neighbor had been evacuated and she was very clearly in shock and traumatized by everything that was going on. And Dave spent, I believe it was around 2 hours with her, talking her through the symptoms and providing supportive listening and resources for her on scene, while the deputies attempted contact with the individual multiple times to try to negotiate. But essentially, it ultimately ended well. The individual ended up coming out and surrendering after a very, very long standoff. But that's just kind of another very unique thing, I think, about our team, that we can assist, whether it's our own county or assist other agencies in providing help in the way that we can.
So every member of our unit, law enforcement and clinicians, goes through a week-long FBI crisis negotiation training. And again, we clinicians get that training in our master's degree as well. We learn how to talk to people, active listening it's called. And again, there's this extra training. So we all are on board on, again, how to talk people down.
So this number is ever changing, of course. 550 people served between 24 and 2025. And I just want to say that this number is not a number that includes follow-up contacts. These are new 550 new individuals. Our number would be skyrocketed if we included like our follow-up contacts with individuals. So these are 550 different people, families, that we have been able to assist so far in providing resources, offering resources, and assisting in any way possible.
This number is low. The clinician that created this presentation used it, I think, at a different presentation a few months ago. So our probably, if we pulled the numbers now, close to 1,000, it would be 900 at least. And again, that's individual people. As Abby said, one client was worth 27 contacts. Okay, and how do you gauge if a program is good? Looking at the contacts or looking at people served, And again, I think our big goal is people served, consumers, keeping them out of the criminal justice system, helping them into the mental health system. So yeah, our actual numbers is greater than that.
Right. So with that said, that pretty much covers everything. Here's a photo of 7 of us, and our 4th deputy, of course. Are there any questions at all?
Any questions from the committee? Thank you for your presentation. As we're going through this, it's important to note that mental health was mentioned during the Captain Lehman's report with regard to the jail. It's been mentioned a number of times in the Community Justice Coordinating Committee, how important mental health is. As our society transitions becomes more fragmented, there is less familial support for a lot of our residents. And so it's important that that there is a support system in our county to assist these individuals. It's also important to note that for a number of years, there was always a call 911, call 911, call 911 for just about anything, right? And that's not what 911, in my opinion, was designed for. And so it is important that we have alternate resources that don't mobilize a fire department, that don't mobilize the sheriff's department or police departments in a way that would overwhelm the people that need that care. So thank you for your work. We appreciate the work that you do and your report. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point in our agenda, ladies and gentlemen, I must apologize, especially to members of the committee, that I did not properly ascertain the number and thorough nature of the reports that we have before us this morning. For those who have prepared reports, it is important that, and they deserve an appropriate amount of time to give their reports. I do have a hard stop at 8:20, which is 8 minutes from now. And so I will leave it to those who are up for the future reports, emergency management year-to-date, district attorney, and jail and kitchen update. If we can squeeze them in, you're welcome to do that. If you would prefer to defer to next month, we will entertain that as well, with my apologies. Thank you for your time this morning. And so, Mr. Lofi, do you have a preference?
I can wait till next month if anybody else needs to go sooner.
Thank you. District Attorney Bratz? Your report was very thorough. We get the gist. The state is not holding up their end of the deal, and we need to figure out a way to properly continue with the district attorney's work in Washington County as laid out in your report. Is there anything you need to add?
No, next month's fine. I can come next month too. That's not a problem.
We'll make both of you a priority next month, and I apologize for your time this morning. Ms. Herdrich, your report on the kitchen.
It was really just to close the loop with you, and if you have any questions from the report, I'd be happy to answer them. But don't really have a whole lot of extra to add beyond what's in that report.
Yeah, it looked like it needed to be done, and now it's done, and very good.
It was quite a painful process, mostly for him, but we got through it.
Are there any objections from the committee to proceeding in that way, or do you wish to plow through in my absence? All right, Mr. Sager.
I have just one thing to add before you close for today. I just wanted to point out a few things, and I'm biased. The county as a whole has an exceptional workforce, but I'm very biased to public safety with ME's office, emergency management, the DA's office, clerk of courts, and the sheriff's department. Just want to touch base on the sheriff and his report. We have an amazing leadership team from the sheriff's office, Sheriff Schulteis, Captain Stacer, Captain Toish, Captain Lehman, our lieutenants. Our detective bureau is second to none. Referencing the presentation and commendation that Sheriff Schulteis gave, I just want to make it clear that when Deputy Roush performed those duties, he woke up that morning not thinking something of that nature was going to happen, but it did. So when it's over, he just doesn't say, well, okay, I did my thing for the day. Well, he gets back in his squad, does his thing, and the next incident could come up 10 minutes later, 30 minutes later. That adrenaline rush is there. These deputies, our leadership is amazing, whether you wear a bar, 2 bars, or you're wearing 5 bugles. We have great leadership in our deputy division. I want to make it very clear that as a committee, you hear all these things, but this is a day-to-day operation from these individuals. And while money is very tight everywhere, and you're the power of the purse,
But these real life experiences that these deputies and our DA's office and our clerk of courts, and it's all intermingled, it's all intertwined. How valuable those resources are for the individuals that perform the duties that we actually come to know and expect from our law enforcement, from our fire personnel. So when you look at a budget and the sheriff identified his budget, that's a big number. That's a huge number. But every single penny is spent wisely. And if it were up to me and I had a magic wand, I'd triple their workforce because they're that good. They're second to none. And I've been around law enforcement fire my entire career. And they transcend everything. The dispatch office, Lieutenant Blair, is exceptional. I would be remiss if I didn't touch base on our front office staff and the 9 individuals that work in the front office. They have the title of administrative assistant, 1, 2, 3. But their job description is so much more than just being an administrative assistant. They just don't answer the telephone and say, please hold. I'll get Lieutenant Demler on the line. Their job description is far more expansive than that. We have Ms. Otterman, who is our account specialist. She's amazing. So everything that is being done from the sheriff's department and his annual report, it's online. Anybody who's watching, they can go online and view the annual report. Like the sheriff said, it's historical. He's got every single one right up until 2024 for years. So I would be remiss that if I didn't touch base on those things and how valuable our law enforcement and our sheriff's office is. It's absolutely amazing. Their community relations are outstanding. As you can see with crew, they're doing everything they possibly can to provide a safe and secure community. So I just thought I'd wrap it up with that.
Thank you for your comments. I think those sentiments are, we all agree with those sentiments. So thank you. Are there any? Our next meeting will be August 20th. Thank you for your interest again, and with my apologies for the reports that are being deferred.